Welcome back to Fix My Mix. This is episode 5 of Fix My Mix, and I have been absolutely loving it. It's great to see that we've got a few friendly faces already in the chat there. We'll be saying hi to you in a moment. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to my sponsor, DistroKid.com there. If you follow that link, which is also, of course, down in the description, and you sign up for DistroKid, you're going to get a bit of a 7% discount there. And I will also make a little bit on that, although at no extra cost to you. And I'll be talking about DistroKid a little bit later on in the show and how great they are for releasing your music to the world. But I want to say a huge thank you, first of all, as I say, to the people who are here in the chat. And a few of you have been joining me this week already on the giveaway videos that I've been putting out. Hasn't that been exciting, eh? I hope you've all been entering, and I know that many of you have. And that's really been to celebrate the fact that I did, in fact, reach 100,000 subscribers on Creative Source. And I haven't had too much of a chance to think about it, but it's amazing. I didn't really think about getting to this point when I started off. I just felt like I wanted to make some videos about music and stuff. So thank you so much to all of you who show great support. And there's those 100,000 subscribers, but there's a very small and special group of people who are there all the time. They're in the chat, they're in the Facebook groups, and they're just taking part. And without you folks, I wouldn't have made it this far at all. So I'm very thankful for that. Now, we will be listening to 3 songs from the community this week. Now, the people who are going to be featured don't know that they're going to be featured. They have just emailed their songs to me, and I just pick some and I go, yep, I'll run with those. And the idea of this show, if you haven't watched it before, is that we're going to listen to some songs, and the artists have said, look, these are not finished yet. The mix is not finished, but they want some tips about how to proceed. Now, last week, I had to do this by myself for various reasons, but thankfully, this week I do actually have a guest. Now, I'm really very happy that this gentleman is on the show. If you've seen the title of the video, his name is Selim. He's from Mixdown Online. Now, I know that most of you here will be Cakewalk users, but Chris is actually a Cubase expert, I would say. Now, don't let that put you off. Follow the link in the description down below to see his channel, because he does loads of really sort of just good recording and mixing videos. And if you may notice when you're over there that some of those videos are a little bit similar to mine, and that's because I've stolen plenty of his ideas for videos. I'm so inspired by this guy. And not only does he have a great channel, and like all of my guests, I believe in their channels and I believe in what they do. But also, like all of my guests, I think they're wonderful people. Chris, you guys don't know this, but Chris has been an enormous help to me personally with Creative Source. And he's a good friend, and he's just an absolute gentleman. I always enjoy having a chat with him. He's just got a great vibe about him. So as I say, follow the link in the description down below. I'm just going to bring him up on screen now that I've made his head too big to fit on the screen. I guess I'll try and bring him up. There he is. Chris, how you?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's early in the morning here in Canada. It's 7 a.m.
Canada, that's right. 7 a.m., 8 p.m.
man.
Here. We're in different time zones. I can tell you that the future is bright. You should definitely wear shades.
I'll keep that in mind.
Keep that in mind. Chris, since you were on a show with me, which was when the show was Featured Artist Live, which was all about kind of people sending in their finished work, really, a lot of release work. Things have changed a little bit. I tried something on that show, and it turned out to be this show. And as you heard in my intro, this is about listening to people's unfinished work. So I'm going to ask you to be comfortable with the fact that you're going to find some faults in these mixes, some things to improve on. And I know you're going to be a gentleman about it, and you would never be unkind to people. But
so we're going to listen to some of my mixes.
Oh, he's on fire today, folks. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. So you get the picture. So we're going to now look. I'm going to be up front with you right away. There's 3 songs. I reckon, from my personal opinion, one of them is almost there. Another one's almost there, and another one needs quite a lot of work. There's going to be a bit to unpack. The process here is going to be about trying to explain to our audience why we think certain things could be done and how we may go about doing them. So we can all learn together, and I know I'm going to learn something from you in the process. Now, before this is a great opportunity for you to do some self-promotion. So can you tell me about a really significant release on your channel recently, or something you want to tell people about?
Oh, on my channel. Okay, first I released my new single.
Really?
You can actually go to. Yeah, it's out. It's. I have a link on my YouTube channel. There's a link to a quick video on the song. You can find it on Spotify and all those streaming services. Just look for my name, Selim, and you'll find it. There's also the launch of the relaunch actually of the Mixdown coaching community, which is my membership platform. Now doors are closed though at this moment, but they're gonna be you can just jump on the waiting list, and at some point you'll get an email once the doors are back up. 2 courses also. There's the Ultimate Guide to Cubase that I released a few years ago, and the Ultimate Cubase Mixing Masterclass, which is my mixing course. And the cool thing about this course, even if you're a Cakewalk user or you work on any other DAW, this is a good course for anyone. There's only one portion where I talk about Cubase features. The rest is we're actually mixing a song from A to Z. So at this point, I'm working in Cubase. I actually work with only stock plugins on this course.
Cool.
On purpose, it was just to use the tools that we have, and that's the goal, I can go on and on with that, but I'm going to keep it at this. Using stock plugins, focusing more on developing your skills as a mixer, as developing your ears, also making the right decisions without relying too much on the huge big plugins that we all love to work with. But
cool.
Just focusing on the skills and stuff. So that's on the website also. You can check it out. And there's also free stuff, free mix template. Working with a mix template is a very good way to speed up your mixing workflow. I have a full free course on that. You can check it out at mixdown.online/mix. That's it. Cool. Or no, /free, sorry. Mixdown.online/free. And this is going to lead you to that free masterclass on how to build the perfect mix template. There you go. So that was my pitch for today.
That's brilliant. Wow, that was very professionally delivered. I didn't think you were going to be that prepared. That was awesome.
No, me either.
It's interesting. It's really interesting you should touch on that, because I was just chatting with Mimo before the show started. Mimo, sorry, you don't know who Mimo is. Mimo Japan is a moderator in the chat there, and he's a really huge supporter of the channel. He does a lot of cool stuff for the channel on the side, so thank you, Mimo. And I was chatting with Mimo, and I was saying, because I happen to be re-recording a song at the moment, maybe for a course. I haven't told anyone about that yet. And I've recorded the whole song from beginning to end using Cakewalk and only using stock plugins. I haven't even used free third-party plugins. I'm only using stock plugins in the whole thing. And it's been a really interesting experience, because you just get forced to make, to use what's at your disposal. And look, at the end of the day, you can get really, really good results with most stock plugins with DAWs. It's really great.
Definitely.
Having said that, if anyone should want to visit the links to Plugin Boutique on the video I released earlier today, there's some awesome plugins there, which you definitely should buy. Now, I think we are going to move on with the first song of the show. But before I do that, I just want to say hi to a few people who are there in the chat. Mimo Japan is there, and he's put a love heart there. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe that's for you, Chris. I'm not. No, he did say something about Chris earlier, actually, and you may be able to help us out here, Chris. He said, Mr. Chris's headphones I don't recognise. Which headphones you got on there, Chris? You don't
These.
know. Oh, there you go. They're really interesting looking. What are they?
Yeah, they are the Viram 1 Mark II. It's the second edition. It's a guy, Ivor. He's from the Ukraine, and he actually built this by hand, so he assembles everything himself, so
Yep.
it takes a long time to get a pair, when you order one pair,
Yep.
but it's they sound very good and not very expensive. I think you can get them at less than $400 US. Open back headphones. They're, from what I've heard, I don't have that the Odyssey LCDs headphones with me, but from what I've heard from other users that work with the Odyssey's headphones, they seem to be very close in the same ballpark at a fraction of the price. So they kind of look alike. They look a bit
they
like
do.
the Odyssey
Yeah.
headphones. So yeah.
Just a few more people in there. One of my favorite usernames on YouTube is this one, Arseface77. He's saying, Arseface says hi, Chris.
Hey, buddy.
We do have Keonra Music, Keonra Music here, and she is my latest moderator. I've just added her as a moderator in on YouTube today, and also in my Facebook group. And Keonra lives pretty much around the corner from me, and I didn't know that
cool.
until quite a long while after she started helping out at the channel. And she's a great singing coach and all that kind of thing. So she may have some input today on any of the vocals that we hear. And lovely to see Jade Starr, who's often a guest on the show, here as well. Good to see you, Jade, here. Jade always has some good input. And finally, I'm going to say hello to Doug, who apparently is just kidding. I don't know what he's just kidding about, but Doug is here, another great supporter of the channel. I'm just randomly picking comments out of the blue here. Now, I've got you as a guest today. I normally have two guests, so I'm going to invite people in the chat to be my third guest today. And when you do listen to the music, give your tips about how you think these tracks could be improved. It's really helpful if you do that in the chat, folks. So I'll look forward to seeing your comments there. As I said, the people who have sent them in, I get quite a few sent to me. They don't know that they're going to be featured. I don't let them know. Mostly because I'm very, very lazy and I can't be bothered. Mostly because I'm very, very busy. That was what I meant to say. So we are going to go to the first. I'm just scrolling down here. Now, normally, Chris, I would get the guests on my show to read out the names of the artists, okay, and their songs. I'm going to pop it up on the screen. If you could try and read it out, I'd be super impressed. I'll show you why.
Why do you do this to me?
Look at this one. Look at this one. Oh my God, my God, my God. Do you want to
I'm not even going to try.
Not even going to go. Well, it starts with K.
Let's call him Jerry.
Okay. So the reason for this script, does anyone in the chat know, or can they guess what country this is from? I'll just let you have a quick guess before I tell you. But I'll tell you, the gentleman's name is Costas. He is from, I won't say the country name. And this is his first completed mix. It was done before
cool.
he found my channel, he said, and since then he's improved drastically. But yeah, he'd still like us to review it and say what we think could be improved. It's really a very emotional song, he says, although it's not in English, so you won't get the lyric. And it's part of the album that I'm planning to release sometime soon. So it's going to be a little bit of a theme of the show. I wanted to make sure that we get some non-English speaking music on here as well. Sometimes
someone is saying it's Latvian.
Well, so that's
it's funny because I've actually been to Latvia before.
Have
played
you?
music there. On a one-week tour with my old band back in the late ~90s. Yeah, so
you should have recognised it then. No, it's not Latvian. It is in fact a couple of people have guessed it right there. So that it's actually Greek. Okay. So I have to make these little videos. I don't make them. I make these little videos. I have a website that I use where it makes a little video for the song, because obviously none of these songs have got any visuals with them. And I had a hell of a time trying to get this website to recognise this Greek language, but I eventually found a visualization for it. So look at the sacrifice I've made for this song. So this is going to be really interesting. I've got to say as well, just one more thing. This is not a style of the music that we often have on the show. So that's two great reasons to have it on. It's not English speaking. It's not a style of music we usually have on. Let's have a listen now.
Yeah, και σου πάω ανάθεμα. Πήρα μονέπνευση και δυο πληγές για λάφυρα. Έκανα λάθημα, δεν το καταφέρα ποτέ να γίνω μάθημα. Πιάνω τα αγκάθινα, το ξανά γιατί πονούσα μα δεν σ' άφηνα. Και πάω ανάθεμα, τα αποφάσισα να ζήσω για ακόμα μια νύχτα και στο κάνω τόσο ράθιμα. Και σου πάω ανάθεμα, πήρα μονέπνευση και δυο πληγές για λάφυρα. Έκανα λάθημα, δεν το καταφέρα ποτέ να γίνω μάθημα. Πιάνω τα αγκάθινα, το ξανά γιατί πονούσα μα δεν σ' άφηνα. Και πάω ανάθεμα, τα αποφάσισα να ζήσω για ακόμα μια νύχτα. Πριν φύγεις δώσ' με ένα ψέμα να πιστέψω. Κόβω το κεφάλι της Άννας να συστέψω. Αφήσω τα βρέω σαν θύρα μας το χθες. Και μη σου λες όλο το σώμα μου από τύψεις και νυχές μου. Είναι φωτιά, πόνο και σεξ. Τις σκέψεις μου γαμάζες και στο πνεύμονα μου καίσθεν. Έχω πια χώρο για σένα. Μέσα στο κεφάλι μου γέμισε με ενοχές. Να μην κλάψεις δεν φταίς. Έτσι κι αλλιώς δεν είσαι καν πραγματική σε ψέ. Μα που έχει σκοπό μόνο να αγαπήσω κάτι και να γράψω στο χαρτί για πένθος όταν θα σε σκότωνα. Και σου πάω ανάθεμα. Πήρα μονέπνευση και δυο πληγές για λάφυρα. Έκανα λάθημα, δεν το καταφέρα ποτέ να γίνω μάθημα. Πιάνω τα αγκάθινα, το ξανά γιατί πονούσα μα δεν σ' άφηνα. Και πάω ανάθεμα, τα αποφάσισα να ζήσω για ακόμα μια νύχτα και στο κάνω τόσο ράθιμα. Και σου πάω ανάθεμα, πήρα μονέπνευση και δυο πληγές για λάφυρα. Έκανα λάθημα, δεν το καταφέρα ποτέ να γίνω μάθημα. Πιάνω τα αγκάθινα, το ξανά γιατί πονούσα μα δεν σ' άφηνα. Και πάω ανάθεμα, τα αποφάσισα να ζήσω για ακόμα μια νύχτα, για ακόμα μια νύχτα, ναι.
Cool. I think you're muted, Mike.
You know, I'm so glad you're here.
There you
I
go.
did this last week. Now, if folks are wondering how I was by myself last week, Chris, I've got to tell you, and I muted myself while the song was playing, and I didn't realise for ages.
I do the same here, but yeah.
I'll show you why. We'll talk about the song in a moment. I'll show you why. I'm just going to move my web camera. I bought this fancy new keyboard, computer keyboard, about a week or so ago, just before the live show.
Nice.
Right? I won't tell you how much I paid for it. I'm very silly with these things sometimes. I just go out and go, what's the most expensive one in the shop? That must be good, right? Just a stupid way to think when you're buying stuff, right? But on this particular Saturday morning, I was guilty of that. And it must be the noisiest keyboard I've ever come across, right? It's like a gaming keyboard. And it was pretty stupid of me to do that. So what I did last week, I don't normally have to do it, but I did it last week, is because I'm taking notes where we're listening to the song, I'm typing away and I mute myself, and I haven't got into the habit yet, because I'm an old guy, of unmuting myself. So there you go. Anyway, let's get to the song.
Cool. So who starts?
Oh, it's always the guest who starts. So,
Always the guest.
You take it, man. You take it.
So kind. Yeah, honestly, it's a good production. It sounds pretty good to start with. I don't think there's a lot to do on this mix before releasing it. I don't know if it's been released yet, but I think it's not. Okay, so what I would do on my side, like the lead vocal seemed to be a bit panned to the right. In general, I don't know if that is on purpose or not. Okay. This is something I felt right away. So when the back vocals came in at some point, everything was back to kind of more balance. So that's something I noticed. And those screams are pretty cool near the end of the song.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like them. I would actually find a way to bring them more in the background, because they tend to get over the music at some point, especially near the end of those screams. Even the last one is kind of way too upfront. I know the kind of emotion you want to bring, to the mix with these going on, but I don't think you're going to achieve that by overloading the mix with those vocals. So it needs to keep the balance right, but just focus on the emotion of what that brings to the mix for those vocals. So maybe add some room effects or something, or maybe a reverb or something, just to bring them back a bit. Same for the balance. It might not be effects, might be balance. Those things are subjective on how you can achieve that, but just bring them back. This is what I would do. The low end, if we look at the frequency balance overall, there's a lot of kick and bass and a lot of low end and bass frequencies going on. And in this case, for this type of music, it's good. I think it sits pretty well. I wouldn't make it louder than it is right now as far as those frequencies goes, but I think that low end bass and kick sounds pretty good together. Kind of like that.
Look, I think that I want to encourage Costas here. If this is your first mix, then definitely beats my first mix by quite a long way. It's
Same
good,
here.
and I agree with Chris. I agree with Chris that it's almost there. I disagree with Chris on one thing here, and that was the bass. I really like where the bass is sitting at the moment, so I think we're kind of in agreement there, Chris.
Sorry,
I did notice it. I just thought, that bass is really, really nice. However, I just sort of felt that with this style of music, it may be worth experimenting with getting a bit more sub in there. You can sort of take liberties a little bit with certain styles of music. Only as an experiment. You may find it could be a failed experiment and you come back to exactly where the bass is now. But if you just wanted to just try a little bit more, however, and I'm sure Chris will agree with me here, bass can be very, very tricky if you haven't got good monitoring for bass. And if you haven't got,
for sure,
a room which is treated for bass. Would you agree with me, Chris? I say to people sometimes, look, if you've just got a room which is not well treated, you don't have any bass traps, the headphones are not a bad option sometimes just to quickly monitor where the bass is, because you take the room out of the equation. Yeah, so
definitely. No, headphones are a great tool, especially for low end and bass frequencies, if your room is not right, definitely, because that can be tricky in smaller rooms if it's not treated correctly, so for sure.
The other thing I sort of felt, you touched on the vocals there a little bit. I like the vocals all in all. There was just one part where it wasn't quite a break, but there was a part where the drums eased off for a little while, and then there was the vocals, and there was that guitar part. Playing. And I just felt in that moment, the guitar was a little bit, it was almost like it was just at exactly the same level as the vocals. And I could, if you use a little bit of automation, I would just slightly drop that guitar down, 5 or 10% or so, just for that period, so that those vocals can really stand up front. I felt whenever, it's interesting when you hear a mix for the first time, Chris, or when you haven't listened to it for a long time, you just hear immediately what's not quite in balance. And so that for me was right. Yeah, that vocal's fighting with the guitar there. It's so, now some other times it can get complex and you're talking about EQs and, ducking things and all that. In this case, I think it's just a fader operation, which is going to sort of fix that. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Good start.
Yeah,
to the show.
and good performance also on his singing. Very tight and rhythmically speaking. So which
really,
a lot
really
of
hard.
people can struggle with.
I struggle with that. I didn't when I was younger, but now I'm an old fella. I've got this little part in a vocal I'm recording at the moment, and it's just a tight little bit, and I'm going. I've considered slowing the whole track down just so I can do it in time and then speeding it up. Would that be immoral? Would that be immoral to do that? I'm sure I heard the Beatles did that once.
Let me think.
It's a great defense. If I can say the Beatles did it, it's a defense.
There you go. If they did, if the Beatles did it, I think we're good. No,
So, anyway,
performance is super important in the mix, and a lot of people are going to tend to focus on the plugins, the effects, and what we do in our DAW. But reality is, if you don't have something good to mix, it's going to be hard to get something good to listen to in the end. So that's why recording techniques are very important, but especially good performance. And this is where a lot of people lack, in my opinion.
And it's interesting, we were talking about headphones earlier. I'm going to relate this to this because it may have even been the last time you're on the show, but some time ago, a few months ago, I can't remember, I got these headphones. These are these Austrian audio headphones. I can't remember the model number now. Something 65.
Yeah, the IX is these.
That's right. Yeah, that's the one. Definitely my favourite headphones, although they're a bit sweaty on my head at the moment. But Susie loves these. She loves these headphones. Now, these are open back headphones, and, you know, people like YouTubers are going to tell you all the time, oh, you should use closed back headphones for tracking and what have you. But Susie said to me one day, and I said, oh, you probably shouldn't use these for tracking. They bleed quite a bit. And she said, but I love wearing these. They're so comfortable. And I said, okay. And she just got a great performance right away because she felt really comfortable with the headphones and just the feel of the headphones. And so, you know, that's the other thing. Don't like sacrifice performance, you know, just so that you can get sonic perfection every time.
No,
It's
exactly.
just not worth it.
Exactly. There's so many bands that recording themselves into the same room with a lot of bleed going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way it is. And they sound
Absolutely.
good, so.
Absolutely, yeah. So good start to the show. I think that song is, look, if we hadn't given it that critique, this quite happily could have got released anyway, and I don't think the average Joe would really notice any of the things that we actually mentioned. So I think that of course Costas should sign up for DistroKid right away. Chris, could you just point up above? If you could just point above your shoulder there, that's it. That's the link to follow.
That's it.
Now, getting on DistroKid is one thing, promoting it is another. They tell me that you should try and get yourself on a playlist on Spotify if you want to promote your music. And here's one of the ways that you can do that on DistroKid. Submit your music to the DistroKid Spotlight feature. It gets entered into this competition where it gets played alongside other songs, and people will vote for which of the two they see on the screen is their favourite. Now, the better you do in this process, the more likely you are to appear in one of DistroKid's playlists on Spotify, and that means your music's got a much better chance of being heard. So you simply go ahead and select one of your songs, and then you've just got to select a 29-second clip. The best part of the song, it would be the best way to go with this, and you've got this nice sort of interactive feature here to do that. You simply then select the Connect with Spotify button and you're away. Now, I wasn't joking when I said that we can have foreign language songs on here, because we've got another one now. And Chris, I think you're going to fare better at reading this one out, so I will give you the honour. This is, if you could do an accent while you do this, this would just really add to it.
José Gomez. With my French accent.
With a French accent, yeah. That's fine. It's in Spanish, but do it with French.
I know. I have so much. I have a hard time with Spanish. Jose Gomez. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't. Why are you asking the Australian? We're hardly cultured.
Delfines de NR.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. I did a little Google Translate on that, and it just sparked interest for me in this song. That translate, according to Google Translate, to January's Dolphins, which, if that's the title of the song, I'm just, right away, I wish I knew what the lyrics were about, because that's going to intrigue me. I have a pet peeve that far too many songs are about relationships and being in and out of love and blah, 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 blah. And I love songs which are just about something a bit different subject. So anyway, that's my pet peeve. I'm just going to read from the artist here. This is quoting from the artist. I've been trying to produce some demos for quite a few months now. I have no prior experience with anything regarding music production, plugins or EQ or anything, so it's been quite challenging. Specifically, I believe my ears don't have the sensitivity for subtle areas of mixing yet. So my band sings in Spanish, by the way, and they're usually 3 to 4 voices in the choruses. My biggest difficulty has been trying to get all of the elements to work together in the mix without overlapping each other. I believe I've abused a bit of panning in order to achieve it. I honestly know very little about audio production, so please go ahead and roast away if needed. I will deeply appreciate it. It's not often someone invites you to roast them and they say they're going to deeply appreciate it. So this is our opportunity, Chris. Look, I don't want to preempt this. I'll leave any commentary to after. I'm just going to let you listen. Please help out in the chat again. Let us know what you think about this mix.
veces ya no están, se mueven desde entonces y camino en sus rincones, pretendiendo ir a encontrarte. Sentimos tantas cosas, respetamos caricias de febrero. Qué miedo me dan los recuerdos tormentosos, porque a veces ya no están, se mueven desde entonces y camino en sus rincones, pretendiendo ir a encontrarte. Ay, los delfines de enero, las olas van recreándose enteros. Hay tantas vidas, recuerdos. Yo camino en sus rincones pretendiendo ir a encontrarte. Ay, los delfines de enero, que en las olas van recreándose enteros. Hay tantas vidas, recuerdos. Yo camino en sus rincones pretendiendo ir a encontrarte.
Okay, so I want to say sort of up front with this one, before we get into it here, Chris, that I think it's fairly self-evident that this mix needs quite a lot of work, okay? So what we're going to try and do, I think, is just try and sort of unpack a little bit and talk about approaches, perhaps in general, to how we may, start a mix like this. Do you agree there, Chris? Because there's so many details that we could talk about with this, really, but you give me your 2 cents and see what was sort of striking you most with that.
Yeah, to start with, I think that's it's a good song that has a lot of potential. It just sounds like a rough mix before you actually start to mix the song. So this song needs to be mixed, basically. I would start definitely on focusing, because right now it's like on balance. We have like bass and drums are way in the back, the vocals are right up front. So it's not there as far as the balance goes, and even with some EQ, I actually read a comment about the muddiness of the vocals and stuff, which I agree with. So I think it's start with the drums, the bass, and keep the lead vocal on. Start with these elements. Nail those out right away before adding guitars and the rest of the back vocals and stuff. Bring the back vocals at the end. Focus on the rhythmic. Get a solid. I don't know the recording quality. We don't have the session, so I don't know what type of tracks you're working with. But even if you're miking the drums with one microphone, there's stuff you can do with that. I actually have a video on that on my YouTube channel.
Cool.
Where I mixed a drum kit that was mic'd with only one mic. But there's stuff you can do, but I would definitely focus on drums. If you have access to all the multi-tracks, it's even better. Kick, snare, and then, bring the overheads and stuff and build your drum sound from that. Bring the bass and work on that, that relationship between the drums and the bass. Get your foundation right. Make sure the vocals are there. Also, bring the vocals. Make sure everything sits well. Then bring the other instruments. Focus on. It's like the 80-20 rule. You focus on the elements that are going to be like 80% of the job.
Yeah, right.
Basically.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you add everything else, and you won't have to focus much on the guitars compared to everything. So yeah, just focus on the elements that are going to make your song go to the next level. So it's a matter of balance and EQing, of course.
Yeah.
EQ is balance anyway. So
and very much, the main thing here was, first of all, just on the positives. Obviously, there's a group of people that know how to sing there. So there's some good vocals going on, some nice harmonies and things going on. I think the guitar sound is almost like one of those controversial sounds, which some people will hate that tone and some people will love it. I really like it, actually. It's got just a nice sort of garage band sort of feel to that guitar, which is really nice. With the balance the way it is at the moment, I would not be tempted to go, I'll tweak it here from there. I could tell you now that the drums were too quiet. The drums were definitely too quiet, and probably the bass. And the backing vocals seemed to be louder than the lead vocal at times as well, which was curious. I wouldn't start pushing those faders around now to try and fix that. I would start again. I would, start again.
Definitely.
And take what Chris said there on board, get your sort of rhythm section going. Almost sounded a little bit to me like perhaps, and I'm totally guessing here, but we can fall into this trap. Perhaps the basis of the song was written by whoever was playing the rhythm guitar at some point, which is very likely. It's not usually the drummer who's going to write the song or what have you. And it's almost like they've taken that part as the main part for the rhythm section and then kind of sat the drums and bass in with it. Whereas even if it happened to be written on the guitar originally, you just want to think in a different way in terms of your rhythm section, I think, when you're building it up for an actual mix there. But yeah, and although I know that a number of people in the comments, thank you very much for commenting, we're talking about the vocals being too dry. Again, and I'm sure Chris will agree with you here, hold off on doing things like that. Get your balance right first without the effects being in there. Is that something you're aware of, Chris? Do you ever start off with some effects on there, or do you start off your mix completely dry?
No, it depends. I'm going to add effects a lot when recording. When I do some production, if there's a guitar sound or a vocal sound, that the effect is actually going to be part of the production.
Right.
And it's not necessarily a mixing thing, but it's a production thing. This is where I'm going to add an effect early, like during the production stage and recording stage. As far as if I'm mixing a song from a client, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to work the balance. I'm going to work on the rough mix to begin with. I'm going to get the balance right, and then I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do as far as the space goes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Now,
so my vocals are going to sound dry. When I'm going to work EQ, compression, my vocal chain, I'm going to work that out before I'm going to add reverb and delays and stuff.
Yep. Look, the thing about this is it's his first mix. It's his first go at mixing. It's actually pretty tricky when you've got live drums and a group of vocalists to deal with, and it's really not an easy thing to do. So, I wouldn't get too despondent about this just because we're saying it sort of needs a complete rework. It's often an experience for us, even when we've been mixing for years, that we get to a point in a song and we go, maybe better to start from scratch here with some fresh ears.
You're right.
At times it's... Yep.
No, and I'm going to add this. Mixing is fun, but it's hard. And it's a process. Right. It's a process, So it's going to take time. I've been mixing for 18 years and I still learn stuff, and I still improving my mixes. And I still don't like some of my, older mix or near, some mixes that I've worked on a few months ago even, that I'm, okay, there's always something we're going to find.
Have you ever had that experience Have you ever had that experience where, perhaps when you started recording, you've got those old recordings which you were naive, you didn't know anything, you just pushed faders around, and you just sort of made it happen. And have you ever had that experience where now you know a lot, right? You've got all of this knowledge and all of this experience, and then you listen to one of those early recordings and you go, that kind of sounds a bit better than what I do now.
No, it's funny, but yeah, there's some stuff. Okay, I've listened to some old mixes of mine. Some were like, okay, that was bad, but some other mixes was like, huh, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, so
Going on your gut sometimes can work really, really well. I often say to people, like, do put some trust in your ears. You've been listening to music for probably decades. Your brain and your
Exactly.
ears do have some idea of how it should sound when it's in balance. So,
no, definitely.
what
and,
I
and
like
sometimes
to do,
we think too technical, and a mix is emotional also. It's an art, so you're
Absolutely.
completely right about that. We need sometimes to break the rules and to just not think too much, but just go with what sounds good, sounds right, and feels good also. And
Really,
a good
really
point
important.
by Doug. Doug did a comment before this one saying that taking breaks also is something in the mix process that I highly recommend, to clear your ears and reference with other productions also.
yeah.
Stuff like
I
that.
find
it
the
helps.
combination of breaks, using reference material, and one that I don't bring up often, and I don't always do it, but in fact, when I do it, it works really well. And that's and it helps if you've got some sort of controller, is to switch off your computer screens when you're listening to the mix. That does a weird thing to the brain where you suddenly, things you couldn't hear before, suddenly you go, oh my God, now it's so obvious, because when you're just looking at your DAW all the time, you're it's just playing little tricks on you visually. So
No, you're right. Actually, that was a point on the mixing video that I did a few years ago. Totally, turn it off, listen to your mix. It's completely different, But you know what I'm saying? You don't focus on what you see on the screen. You just really focus on what you're hearing at the moment, which is what you need to do. Basically, we're mixing music.
now another point just before we do move on, I want to say if I get the pronunciation correct, Jose Gomez, I think was the name. I'm rubbish at Spanish names. Was Chris there was talking about getting going with the rhythm section first and building the drums and the bass up. For me, probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago now, I switched it around. So I kind of do top down. So I will go to the loudest part of the song first for my static mix, usually the chorus, and I'll set the vocals. Usually I'll put the main vocal at 0 dB, parity gain, and I'll kind of bring things up under the vocal. Okay. That works for me. I don't think it works for everyone. It depends on the music, the song, what your perspectives are, what you want for that song. But that has worked for me in the sense of I used to feel like I built all that rhythm section up first, and I was always going, oh, that vocal I need to push up really, really loud to get on top. And then I was pushing over everything. It seemed to be going up for me all the time when I used the bottom up approach. So, just another valid thing. You've got to do what works for you. Look at these different techniques and see what works for you. But with this one being so vocal, based, it may just work for you there. In any case, when you do get to the stage where you have got this mix, by the way, I always say to the artists on the show, if you think you've perfected a mix after you've listened to the show, do resend the mix to me, and we may well have a listen to it again on the show and see if we feel that it's improved at all. And when you get to that stage and you feel that you want to go ahead and release it, of course, who are you going to release it through? By the way, Chris, who did you release your music through? Just tell me quietly. You see, there you go.
I did. I'm a
Yes.
DistroKid guy.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And it's so easy to sign up and get going with it.
It is, it
Find
is.
out now. We're about to. want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. Now, this final song is actually in English, although the artist is saying that he doesn't normally sing, so that's one of his first attempts actually at vocals. And I'm going to be really upfront about my hesitance in is hesitance a word? I'm not sure. I may have just hesitance. My hesitancy. I don't know if that's a word, but anyway, I'm going to be upfront about it here. And straight away, I'm going to tell you the reason I was a little bit hesitant about including this song is because it's one of those songs, it's 6 minutes long, okay? Now, there is a tendency amongst musicians to make songs which are too long. And when is a song too long? Not when it's 6 minutes long, but when it hasn't been good for 6 minutes. Right? When it's been good for 3 minutes and after that it was 3 minutes too long. And at first I saw it was 6 minutes and I thought, I don't know if I want to do this on the live show, because I want to make sure that everyone watching is going to be engaged, obviously. And then I had to listen to it, and it was sort of on while I was working, and I sort of thought, actually this is pretty good. Like the second half of this song is actually, I was enjoying it, to be honest with you. Now that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. So this is going to be a little bit naff. But I'm going to allow a little bit of audience participation. I'm going to allow this to go for about 3 minutes. If you feel in the comments you've had enough, let's be polite about this, but could be good feedback for the artist at the end of the day. I just want you to say, I've had enough, or I've heard enough, okay, in the comments, okay? I don't think it's being disrespectful. I think it's just a way of saying to the artist, hey, a lot of people could, fall away at this point. That may not happen, and you may all want to listen to it till the end. So we'll see about that. That's one of the aspects. The reason I did think about sort of cutting it off, and going, well, we'll just listen to the first 3 minutes and we'll have Chris give his opinion. But there's quite a lot of new things which happen after about the halfway point, in my opinion. So I hope we get there. Fingers crossed. This is from an artist called Ted Wilson. The song is called All the Way, which is appropriate. I hope we get to listen to it all the way. So Ted says, I've been messing with recording for about 2 years, but never really had the time to concentrate on it until I retired recently. I've learned quite a bit in the last 6 months. Now I have the time, but I know I have an awful lot still to get my head around. This is the second track I've got anywhere near finishing. The first was an instrumental, but the one I have here, All the Way, is my first attempt at vocals. I'd love to give it the once over, as I am some way into mixing it. Knowing I'm on the right track would give me the confidence to finish it. Having said that, if I'm way off track, it's valuable learning. We'd love to get your feedback. So let's have a listen to this song, All the Way.
time I thought I knew all the tricks, but it's hard to say. But then the truth can't be denied. I'm falling down all the way. So here we are, against the wall, nowhere to turn and no right to play. But in the end, you wind up lost, but still you've gone all the way. The past has been and gone, going round and round, trying to get at you always. So many lies, oh so many times. I'm still searching, searching, searching.
Nice. You're muted. I think you're muted, Mike. There you go. He's back.
It takes a long time for me to learn new things, you know. It really does. Now listen, it warms my heart that we got through to the end there, without anyone saying, you know, we should stop or anything like that. Because in this world where we're always told everything should be 3 minutes long, and you know, you should get to the chorus within 10 seconds and all that sort of stuff, I think there's actually quite a lot of people out there who are quite happy to listen to a good piece of music for 6 minutes long if it's a good piece of music. So yeah, someone said I was left speechless. Some people wish I was left speechless sometimes. Now, Chris, I saw you sort of rocking out a little bit to that. You were just really, I could see you were just enjoying that piece of music there. Just give me your feedback.
No, I didn't mind. It was a 6 minute long, you know. I think Daniel on the chat is saying that was a quick 6 minutes. Well done. So yeah, I tend to agree with that. And it goes with the genre also, the vibe. It's, you know, like people said in the chat, it's that Pink Floyd vibe that we have from the beginning, you know. Very cool Ebo. I think that's an Ebo on the guitar at the first part of the song was pretty cool. But yeah, so I think as far as the song goes and the way it's built and, you know, the arrangement and stuff, it works for this type of music, and you know, so I don't mind the length of the song. What I could tell as far as the performance goes, it's very good performance. You know, I'll always listen to, you know, the performance, the recording and stuff. So I think you know, that's pretty good stuff. Good writing, good singing. If I go now at the more technical part, and also emotionally speaking, that build-up is very cool. You know, you get into the middle of the song, and it builds up to the end with the guitar solo, and there's more and more going on. And I would actually work on the space in this part of the song. You know, space can add emotion also, because you want to bring you're actually trying to bring the listener into kind of a different world. You know, and something that is evolving, that is something that is emotionally bring you somewhere else. You know, so. Don't be afraid to use effects. Don't be afraid to bring the listener into a certain space. Don't overdo it. But you know, it sounded a bit too dry for me, for the emotion that he was trying to bring on. Balance with. I'm going to talk about the drums. I'm a drummer, so I'm always going to talk about drums. I would actually work that out. Balance, like the drums. The kick was like round. You know, bassy and pretty there, you know, which is good. Snare and the rest of the drums were kind of weak and a bit more in the background. Like, I love to look at drums as one instrument opposed to several instruments mixed together, you know. So bring your snare to the same pace as your kick. And for this type of 70s type music, you can even try to bring it a bit less bright also. Like the snare, I'm talking about the snare. A bit more fatness. You can keep the brightness if you want, but at least, you know, bring some 100 hertz or 250 a bit, or 200 hertz, just to fat up the snare a bit, you know. So I would actually work on that. I can actually feel and hear that there's a bit, maybe rebalance the snare with the overheads and stuff, you know, so just to get a bit less of overheads and a bit more of the close miking of the snare, if that was the case when recording. So I would work on that. And as far as I was talking about the space, I was talking about that build up and in the end. Maybe there's a song you can listen to from M83, the song Wait. It's an older song, and it has that build up, you know, at the end with pretty much organic, you know, instruments like real drums and stuff that you can actually check out. and there's a very nice space around everything and all the instruments and stuff. And that song actually brings you into a very good vibe and a very good, like.
It's
in
kind
a
of
very
interesting you
nice,
say that. I hadn't
world.
really thought about that, but now I think about it, because as I think I sort of alluded to before we played the song, that I thought that, you know, kind of second half of the song, which was mostly taken up with the guitar solo, was really interesting. There was a nice build to it, but I hadn't thought of it. But if there was a little bit more space just before that guitar solo started, and then it kind of exploded into that solo, that could be very, very interesting indeed, and definitely I can sort of hear that in my head now. One thing I will say, because I don't have too many negative things to say about this track at all. It's the most obvious track out of all of them, which, well, probably the second one as well, but it's in need of mastering. Of course, we're talking about the mixing, so people haven't got to the mastering stage yet, but it's in need of mastering. I wouldn't be thinking about fixing it with the mastering at all. You want to get it there, but I actually had it up to almost full volume there, just so that we could sort of hear it. So obviously it hasn't been mastered, but that's fine. But I definitely sort of felt that once you do get that balance right, space, you know, this is just yearning for all kinds of really nice, tasteful panning on all kinds of things. It's just one of those songs which is going to take it. Not all songs can handle that, but definitely space on this one. So the thing that I was going to say, which I thought was sort of a positive thing that we can all learn from, was that first part of the guitar solo, which was almost like, I'll call it a one-note guitar solo. It wasn't really one note. It was one main note, which sort of alternated with a second and a third note. For those of you who are tempted to always overcomplicate things, I've got to tell you, I never get tired of the one-note solo, that sort of you know, thing going on. Now, it went to some really interesting places after that as well, and he showed that he wasn't a virtuoso guitar player, but a very, very competent and tasteful guitar player. And I just really, really enjoyed the guitar performance there. It changed. I had a little bit of a whinge about a track last week, Chris, a song where I felt the guitar solo was just sort of noodling. You know, it wasn't composed. It was like someone having a bit of a jam, which is great if you're the person jamming, but not so great if you're a listener. Always, it's great fun. But this felt like it didn't sound contrived, but it sounded like a composed solo, which was here. So, for people, just sort of take the good stuff out of this as well and try to learn from that. Think, it's not a bad thing to actually evolve and write a guitar solo. I know we think that, all these great guitarists just do it on the spur of the moment in the studio, but I know some of them do, but I'm not so sure about the others. Most of the great ones. I'll use Mark Knopfler as an example. It's very obvious that he writes his guitar solos, that he evolves them over time, and he eventually nails them down to specific passages which are composed as a piece of music. And so that sounded great to me. I'm not really going to.
For sure.
I'm not going to pretend that I've got lots to say about this, because I don't. I just want to sort of encourage Ted to, first of all, if this is your first track that you've sung on, then please do sing some more. There was some nice vocals in there, some great harmonies. That all, came off really, really well. It was very, very Pink Floyd, to be honest with you. If we were going to say something negative, then maybe, take that as a base, and maybe you could, do your own thing a little bit more here and there. That's always a challenge, though, for all of us, if we've been inspired by, particular artists. But yeah, I just think, I think Ted said in his email here, that knowing that he's on the right track would give him the confidence to finish it. And you're definitely on the right track, Ted. I reckon just keep pursuing this. These tracks are difficult. These are not tracks that you can normally mix and get out there in a couple of days. There's a lot going on in them. There's a lot of subtleties, I think, to the balance. Usually quite a lot of automation is going to go on in a track like this, because you've got so many different parts in the arrangement that you're going to get different things that need to be coming to the fore at different times in this track. So yeah, definitely. I'm going to personally confess I don't enjoy automation at all normally, but it just makes such a world of difference, So that would be my only suggestions with it. But yeah, good stuff there, Chris. thank
Yeah.
you so much for being on the show, to
You're
giving
welcome.
some of your valuable time, because you, like me, I know, are an incredibly busy person. I just want to say to everyone who sent their music in that thank you so much. It's hard to show unfinished work to people and put it out there in public. It's a very brave thing to do. I hope that those of you listening have got the confidence, though, to feel that this could be a safe space. And if you've got an unfinished mix, then do follow the instructions in the description down below. Email it to me. You've just got to send the mix in, a WAV file or an MP3, and make sure the email title is Fix My Mix, and that will draw my attention to it. And as you can see from this show, we're happy to have all kinds of music from all kinds of languages. At all kinds of stages from different people. You know, we're all at different stages in with this art and trying to get better at it. Some people are at the beginning, some people are near. Well, I don't suppose none of us are really near the end of learning, but we've got to a competent stage at least. So we're happy to hear anything on this show. And Chris, I just feel like, thank you so much for being here, because the way that you are able to articulate your opinions is incredibly good. For someone, who's been mixing, as you say, for 18 years, I know you've run a commercial studio, and now I'm guessing YouTube takes up a lot more of your time. Do you do a lot less mixes now for people? You're still busy in the studio?
No, I'm just more selective, but I do mix. I do have mixing clients. And went back into writing music myself also, and teaching on YouTube courses. So I do mix on a regular basis, whether it's for my music or clients. Yeah, but with
and tell me,
clients, I'm more
on this song that you've just released, because I know you are a drummer, and do you play bass as well a little bit? Is that one of the other things?
I do play a bit of everything, keyboards,
but you
piano
don't sing,
and stuff,
do you?
But no, back vocals, stuff like that,
So who's singing?
I always I collaborate with people.
Yeah,
so I do a lot of instrumental music. Like this piece of music was originally an instrumental piece. And then a singer I work with in the studio for some videos, and she's a very good cello player also, and an amazing singer. Yeah. She was in the studio. We were shooting a microphone video for YouTube, and I had her listen to my music, and I asked her, would you mind if you feel like there's something you can add to this, maybe add some vocal melody and lyrics and stuff. And 15 minutes after it was done, so it's like, this is my idea. I love working with these type of songwriters. They just do it right away on the spot, and it's good right away. So
absolutely.
So I decided to build on that. So I have two versions on my release. So there's a full version with vocals and stuff, and one instrumental version.
I'm personally really, really blessed being in a relationship with Susie, and she's got a lovely voice, of course.
She does. So I saw that on some of your videos. Yeah, you're lucky.
She does, and she's not a professional singer or anything like that. She's never done it professionally. She just enjoys singing, and she's often to be found in the bedroom singing away. And of course, we have that emotional connection, but it just so happens that we have a connection musically in the sense of we kind of know what each other's talking about without having to say too many words. Do you know what I mean? And you just get that sometimes. I've worked with some other musicians in the past. There's just that synergy which happens. So I can just sort of say to her, hey, I was just thinking maybe you should, go a little louder on this part. And she goes, oh, yeah. And then she just does it first take right away like that.
It's synergy in the studio is so fun. When you get to know someone well and someone you work with a lot, like my friend Jimmy, we've been working together for 15 years. I don't play guitar much, so that's the only thing I don't play. And he's like that amazing guitar player. So we work together a lot. And the way when we're into a session, we don't even talk much. You can be in the other room and we're just doing some different takes. I know when to stop. He knows when I'm going to stop, or if something is not working, he's going to do another take right away. So we kind of know each other, and it goes fast and it's fun.
Absolute magic. I will quote it again, but I've mentioned it several times probably on the channel. My favorite part of a movie the movie, which is about, was it Sound City Studios? Dave Grohl was in it, and he was getting the old
I did
knee.
not watch it yet. I heard about it.
Okay. There's
heard
one
so much.
part. There's one part in there where he's invited Paul McCartney in to play with him, and I believe I forget the guy's name, but the guy who was the bass player in Nirvana. Jeez, I wish I could remember his name. And he
Yeah,
was
I
in the
forgot his
session,
name, yeah.
and Paul McCartney came in, and they had a little jam on this song, and it sounded great. You know, they recorded it. And Dave Grohl turns around to Paul McCartney. He says, I wish it was always this easy. And Paul McCartney, without blinking, turns around and says, it is.
There you go. Now, this is how it's supposed to be.
And there's that sense with someone like Paul McCartney that he's still having fun like he was when he was 12 years old and just playing around with music. Let's just do that. That'll be fun. Let's just play that. And I reckon if you can get that mindset, you can go a long,
Exactly.
long way rather than kind of overthinking things, you know.
we do tend to overthink a lot, especially with all the tools we have access to and all the techniques and all the YouTube videos that we watch, even if we make some ourselves, you know. But still, you know, I agree with you.
Absolutely, and then if we start to think as well, and this is the biggest danger, YouTuber, music creator, whatever you are, if you start getting that little thought in your mind, oh, I wonder what people will think about this, or I wonder if people will like this, or that one can really crush creativity enormously, and just get you in this little narrow, very popular place where everyone likes you a little bit, but not many people like you a lot, if that makes sense. So it's almost
It does.
self-defeating. So, you know, I just think, I know it's a cliche to say, but you really do have to try and make the music which you enjoy. And that's one thing I like about this last track that we listened to here. Of course, there's, you know, obviously millions of people around the world who love Pink Floyd style of music, but it's not in the mainstream at the moment. It's not being released and playing on the radio, of course. But obviously the composer here, Ted, on the last track there, he loves that style of music, and you could hear he's just enjoying putting all those layers together of all those different instruments, and that is a lot of fun. You can do that for some decades and just have a lot of fun. So,
And that's the good
highly
thing
recommend.
about today's music, the way we produce music now, and tools like Spotify and streaming services like that, is we don't have to aim for radio all the time, you know.
Yeah,
we don't have to
exactly,
limit
right?
ourselves to a certain, you know, it has to be like a 3-minute song. It has to be like this. No, you know what? You can just be creative, lay down your art, and there you go, and share it to the world. And
Really important.
if people like it, they're going to listen to it.
And I think generally, if you're doing something, at least to a certain level, which you are really enjoying, there will be an audience that finds you. Sometimes don't think so much about going out and finding your audience. Just put your art out there and allow people to discover you, and you'll get a really good quality of a fan. That's the attitude I have with Creative Source. I know there are some people in the comments sometimes who will say, God, this guy rambles on a bit too much, get to the point, right? But I know that my kind of fans, if you like, kind of like that. They like someone who's going to go into a little bit of depth about it. So you can't please everyone. You've just got to do your thing and find the people who enjoy, you know, what you do along the way. It can be... It's much more fun being yourself than trying to be someone else anyway at the end of the day. That was a great show. And
That was fun. That was fun,
at
Mike.
the end there. Thank you so
Thanks
much
for the invite.
my pleasure, my absolute pleasure. I hope to have you on again, Chris. I really do.
Sure.
You're such a gentleman. I do love your channel. I don't always get to watch it like every week, but every time I watch it, I enjoy whichever video I watch. So it's really cool. And I'm always like, oh shit, I've got to get that idea. I've got to kind of take that idea of Chris's and adapt it a little bit and make it a little bit Creative Source. So you have been a big...
And
not
that's the
just
same for me,
recently.
by the way.
Well, I mean, we're very lucky because there are quite a number of good YouTubers out there talking about music,
Yeah.
all in their different way. And, you know, one of the great things, of course, that I've found, I'm sure you found the same, over the course of the last 3 years for me, getting to 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to say 99% of the YouTubers I've met are just great people. There's always,
They are.
you know, there's always one, but I've met so many wonderful, giving, open-minded, open-hearted YouTubers. Most of them are guests on this show, and you know, it's been a pleasant surprise for me because I kind of didn't imagine it was going to be like that beforehand. Did you find the same?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Definitely the same for me.
So you are definitely included in that list, Chris. So thank you so much for being here. Thank
you,
you
my friend.
also to all of the people who have been in the chat. Don't forget that my 7 days of giveaways is continuing. Today we had Plug-in Boutique, not too long before this show started. Tomorrow we are going Ample Sound with a big giveaway from them. We also have coming up after that a giveaway from IK Multimedia, from Isotope, and we're going to be finishing off on Tuesday, I think, next week, with a really nice giveaway from Arturia, who are one of my favourite companies. I really love their stuff. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone now. I will see you tomorrow. Me and Chris I'm going to go away and have a much-deserved rest. Chris is going to start his day probably super inspired now to be creative, I'm sure.
There you go. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Very good audience.
An excellent